Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a really cool question. Why do some teams just click? Whether it's in sports, business, or even a gang of thieves, some groups are way more than just the sum of their parts. We're going to dive into the hidden language these teams use and crack the culture code.
So, let's start with a bit of a riddle. Navy SEALs, professional jewel thieves, and a bunch of kindergartners. What on earth could they possibly have in common? On the surface, absolutely nothing. But the secret to why they're all so good at what they do? It's exactly the same. And the answer? Well, it flips everything we think we know about teamwork on its head.
You know, we all fall for this myth. We think if you just get a bunch of smart, talented people in a room, you'll magically get a smart, talented team. But it just doesn't work that way. The reality is, individual smarts don't matter nearly as much as how the group interacts. And there's a famous experiment that proves this in the most amazing way.
Check this out. It's called the Marshmallow Challenge. Groups get some dry spaghetti, tape, and a marshmallow. The goal? Build the tallest tower. Now, you'd think business students would nail this, right? Wrong. And trial after trial, the kindergartners, they crush them. And why is that? Well, the business students spend all their time posturing, figuring out who's in charge, managing their status. The kids? They just start building. They help each other, they try stuff, they fail, they try again, they focus on interacting.
So what this tells us is that great culture isn't some kind of magic. It's not something that just happens. It is built, and it's built with a specific set of skills. The very first one, the one that everything else rests on, is all about building safety. It's the foundation.
Now, when we say safety, we're not talking about wearing a helmet. We're talking about psychological safety. It's about creating an environment where your brain's ancient alarm system, the one that's always scanning for threats, can finally chill out. It's that feeling that you can speak up, take a risk, or even screw up without being shamed for it. And it's built through a constant flow of tiny little signals.
So what do these signals actually look like? Well, there was this fascinating study where scientists wanted to see how one bad apple could poison a whole team. But they accidentally discovered something way more powerful, the good apple. There was this one guy, let's call him Jonathan, who just by being himself consistently turned struggling teams into awesome ones, even when the bad apple was there.
So what was his secret? He didn't take over. He didn't give a big motivational speech. His superpower was much quieter. He just radiated warmth. He'd lean in, he'd smile, he'd make eye contact, and he would listen, like really listen. He was sending out a steady stream of these tiny belonging cues that just neutralized all the negativity and made everyone feel like, okay, I'm safe here, I'm connected.
Researchers have basically boiled these signals down to three key things. First, there's energy. You're actually invested in the conversation. Second, individualization. You treat the person like they're unique, not just a cog in the machine. And third, you signal that this relationship isn't just a one-time thing, that it has a future. Altogether, these cues answer that one ancient, crucial question our brains are always asking. Are we safe here?
And that's it. That is the single most important message any group can send to its members. It's the key that unlocks the door to everything else.
All right, so once you've laid that foundation of safety, you're ready for the next step. You're ready to fire up the engine. And that brings us to skill number 2, sharing vulnerability.
I want you to imagine this for a second. It's July 19th, 1989. You're in the cockpit of a huge DC-10. Suddenly, there's a massive bang. Your tail engine explodes, and flying metal cuts through every single one of your hydraulic lines. You have no steering. Nothing. The plane is basically a giant metal brick falling out of the sky. Every manual, every simulation says this is impossible to survive.
In that moment of pure chaos, the captain, Al Haynes, the guy in charge, says 4 of the most powerful words a leader can possibly say. He turns to his crew and he just asks, "Anybody have any ideas?" Think about that. By admitting he didn't have the answer, he instantly transformed that cockpit from a strict hierarchy into a creative problem-solving team.
What happened there is something called a vulnerability loop. It's so simple but so powerful. It's basically a game of catch. Person A tosses out a little bit of vulnerability, like, "I'm not sure what to do here." Then person B catches it, and instead of judging, they toss some vulnerability back. Like, me neither, but let's figure it out. And just like that, a bond is formed. Trust goes up, and real cooperation begins.
So, we have our foundation of safety. We have our engine of cooperation all fired up. Now we just need to know where we're going. We need a compass. And that brings us to our third and final skill, establishing purpose.
Let's rewind to 1982. It's an absolute nightmare for Johnson & Johnson. Someone is putting cyanide into Tylenol bottles on store shelves. People are dying. It's a terrifying crisis. And against the advice of the FBI, they make a huge call. They decide to recall every single bottle of Tylenol in the country. It cost them $100 million right off the bat. So how did they make such a tough call so quickly? They had a cheat sheet. It was this simple one-page document called the J&J Credo. It was written decades before, and it clearly spelled out their priorities. Number 1, customers. Number 2, employees. And all the way down at the bottom, Number 4, stockholders. In the middle of that crisis, the Credo was like a lighthouse. It made hundreds of complex, scary decisions feel simple. This is what great groups do. They create these high-purpose environments. They're absolutely obsessed with telling their story over and over again. They fill their space with these simple, vivid reminders of this is who we are and this is where we're going. They're not just motivational posters, they're navigational tools that get everyone pulling in the same direction. So, let's step back and put all these pieces together. We have safety, we have vulnerability, and we have purpose. How do they work together to create these incredible cultures? The really beautiful part is how they're all interconnected. You see, you have to build the foundation of safety first. Only then can people feel secure enough to fire up the engine of vulnerability. And only when that engine of cooperation is running can the whole team actually use the compass of purpose to navigate together. It's a complete system where each part enables the next.
So look, this isn't just some abstract theory for Navy SEALs or giant corporations. The most powerful idea here is that these are skills. And because they're skills, it means any of us can learn them. We can practice them and get better at them in our own teams, our families, and our communities.
When you boil it all down, all three of these skills, safety, vulnerability, purpose, they're all just different ways of sending one core message. And that message is, we are all in this together. The best leaders are constantly signaling this, often through tiny acts of what's called muscular humility, like picking up trash or being the first to say, I messed up. Small acts that send a huge signal. I serve the group.
So cracking the culture code, it's not a mystery. It's not about big, grand gestures. It's a language spoken through small, consistent signals that build safety, trust, and purpose. It's a set of skills that you can start practicing today, which really just leaves one final and most important question. What signals are you sending?